back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, first of all, before we get to what we usually do with our quick little character recaps, checking in with each of the party members and seeing how personally their characters are feeling about the given situation. Before we do that, just a quick disclaimer. I am hanging at my mom's house right now, and my microphone thing is being a little weird. This microphone is not working, but my webcam microphone is. It's much more sensitive. I don't really have control over all the sounds that are going to happen in this house necessarily, so there might be some noise coming in, disturbing the stream a little bit, and I'll see what I can do to minimize that to my best ability. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and have Alton start with character recaps.
Okay. I would say Alton is not happy with the situation. He is a man of his word, and his primary concern right now is Darius, because he made a promise, and he's frustrated that Darius has rejected his overtures to keep it. And that, to him and in his culture, that would be like really bad form. To seek out amends, to have somebody seek out amends, and to not have somebody else allow for that. So for him, that's very frustrating. But that doesn't change the fact that in his own personal and his own principles, he is not going to attempt, and he's still not. He doesn't have that positive impact that Eridu had with the druids. So even though he went with them because Onn and Eridu basically dragged them along, he is very cautious of them. And then there are other things, but I'm going to get into that during the game. And that's it.
Okay. How about Onn?
Okay. Well, to begin with, I'm going to apologize. My screen is just frozen, so I have no idea if my computer's about to crash or not.
Oh, gosh.
That would be really bad. However, before that happens, I can't switch to my D&D Beyond, so all of this is going to be off the dome. So, green-skinned Onn is a wild magic sorcerer, a Eladrin person who is currently theory crafting about a whole bunch of things. I think Onn is, after this episode, going to invest in aluminium foil heavily and wear them as hats. Onn is finding himself in this odd situation where he's having to deal with the interactions between people, which is an enigma for him. It's this strange thing that other people do, interacting with each other and having to deal with these interpersonal politics. So he's feeling very much out of his depth, and he's trying to pin it all down and make it all super simple, which of course these interactions aren't. But for the time being, he is super simplifying everything in his mind, and he's thinking, right, druids haven't hurt us. They are currently providing a shelter. That's good. Garth has been enigmatic and shady, and I think the way he's been operating kind of puts him in Onn's blind spot. Onn is very uncomfortable with doing anything against Garth, regardless of the evidence being mounted against him, because it isn't overt. It isn't Garth saying, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. And
so that's not something to take advantage of.
That's the other thing too, is that I don't think we've really gotten to the point where Eridu's had been able to tell you guys exactly what happened in the prison, what he's learned. So that will be something that'll happen fairly soon, is you guys trying to shake that out and figuring out like what the hell is going on.
Yeah, exactly. Right now Onn is looking to get some rest and think and ruminate on all these things that are going on, because we've got Garth in one corner supposedly scheming. We've got Darius blaming Garth for all the stuff, but Darius also seems to be doing his own things that don't seem to be containing much in the way of scruples. but they're not harming Onn and his friends directly, so that might be fine. What the druids are doing could be a little weird and creepy, with the whole like draining drugged people of the vital fluids and using that for some weird reason. We've got this political guy doing rallies in the street. Just there's a lot going on, and Onn is very confused. Drew is loving it. Onn is very confused and wants to hide in a dark room for a few hours.
Well, I'm glad Drew is enjoying it, because that's the only person I care about pleasing.
It's the only one anyone cares about. No one cares
It's
about.
true. He actually doesn't care if Josh and Asa enjoy this.
Nah, fuck y'all. Just kidding.
It's the appeal to the international audience.
That's for sure. So, I mean, so how's Eridu feeling, though? Has he, like, mostly recovered from his stint in prison?
Well, I mean, at first I had to talk about the international politics thing because my tweets already towed the lines of being very insensitive.
Oh dear.
Through,
Oh dear.
no, I made Independence Day jokes about Drew. He's all British and shit.
Oh yeah.
All right. So how's Onn feeling? Well,
Eridu.
I don't know how Onn's feeling. How's Eridu feeling? Today is going to be a day where I am all characters and all characters not me, because every name is going to get confused. Screwed up.
You contain multitudes, Asa.
Yeah, I think Eridu is extremely like schizophrenic today, so he's going to try to be everyone for a moment. Dogs barking. That's it. Okay, so I think he's recovered from the overall like experience in prison, emotionally, in a way, but there's still a whole lot happening physically. It can be just in.
Yeah, Eridu has been going through a rough time. There was a point in time where Eridu was on 2 different drugs simultaneously, and they interacted in a not-so-savory way. He ended up having a really bad trip, and Onn simultaneously was having a really great trip. Because, yeah, you just take some sympathy. If you're an Eladrin, it's totally like a chill thing. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So maybe just to supplement a little bit of what Asa is talking about is where the party is going is that they're going with one of the druids who they met, who lives in the sewers underneath the city. This one druid in particular, Bredis, was drawn inexplicably to Eridu's cell when he was being imprisoned. And Bredis could not exactly explain. She was more of just like exploring these little nooks and crannies and whatnot, but she couldn't explain exactly what drew her to follow this energy, and all of a sudden she finds Eridu at the other side. Bredis ended up being instrumental in helping Eridu escape from prison. Just kidding, Eridu's very capable. It was mostly him. Let's be honest.
I must admit, the kung fu punch to the door and then just going back and sitting down in the cell, that was kind of cool.
That was cool, definitely. I tried to play it off like nobody was impressed, but they were definitely like concerned, maybe a little bit impressed. Yeah.
Thank you for filling in for me while.
Yeah, no problem. Just wanted to provide some little supplemental details and also clue in the audience about this little shipping opportunity between you and Bredis.
That seems to be each episode that Eridu is involved in. There is sort of shipping opportunity for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean,
That's pretty much the nature of Eridu.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's like one of his core principles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. All right, so Eridu is well. First off, he has no idea about Vilden. Does not know that his partner is leaving him.
Yeah.
And he is very much concerned about this agreement he made with Garth. In that he made an agreement with Garth, and even though he broke out of prison, like, he's done a lot to put an arrow on his back, and if he doesn't follow through with this agreement, it could be a death sentence. He just got a lot going on. Plus, he's like going through withdrawals of and puking on On's shoes, and
Oh, I forgot about that.
yeah, he's going through a rough patch. So I think right now he's looking for something to cling to, something to really solidify what's happening and give him something to work toward. And the druids might be that thing. Let's find out.
Yes, let's find out. So, as we resume our story, the party has met up with Abridus and a handful of other druids that are taking the form of mangy, gross neighborhood dogs. And they have dove headfirst into the sewer system yet again. They're finding out what lies beneath Twin Harbor. And as per usual, the party is following the animal shapes as they duck in between gross, mucky, sewery landscape. And you take this turn, that turn, this turn, that turn. They know where they're going. You have no idea where you're going. Trying to get out of this situation if you wanted to. It might take a little while of tracking and going back to find the right path. And then you come upon their main territory in the sewers, and you are struck first by the acrid smell that is in this area. It's not just regular sewer stench, and it is reminiscent to you. One of the last times when you were in the sewers with the druids, after you had helped them kill some of those blue blood zombie monster type things, and they dragged the corpses back, and they started putting the corpses in these tubs and cutting them and bleeding them of all their blue, sticky, gross blood. Yeah, it's that smell. That smell is just completely wafting over you guys as you enter this area. It is similar. It's like a similar little outpost. You know, they don't really have permanent homes, but they have like these little outposts in the sewers all over the place where they can, you know, have some sort of respite, some sort of home base as they, you know, spread around the city. Bredis brings you all in. She is staying particularly close to Eridu, and seems to be exuding this sense of concern for him. She really seems to be taking on this kind of maternal role of concern in a way for Eridu. But she welcomes you all and apologizes. Yes, of course we don't have anything in the way of feather beds or anything of the like, but this place is safe. And if you need to, you all can rest. I'm sure there is much that we need to talk about, much that we need to cover. But what is most important is that you're able to rest and recover in the way that you need.
Thank you, Bredis. And again, thank you to all of you for your help. It was very helpful for us to be able to come to someone at such a late hour and ask for help, and your people did just that. A question arises. Is there perhaps a respite from the scents wafting through the area?
I'm afraid you must deal with that. There's another chamber across the way where the smell is not as offensive, but I promise that all will become clear. But you all should really rest.
I'm going to move towards the chamber that she would potentially motion to or indicated, somewhere that I can go to rest up. But I'm going to try and sneakily look back and see when she's not watching, and then sneak off to find the source of the smell and see if I can, like, you know, get close to the core of the operation here and get a better look at what it is that they're doing, what the scale is that they're doing it on, and maybe even find a druid that I've never spoken to yet, that's like midway through a task and doesn't seem disturbed by me just turning up. Maybe be like, so, what we doing? How many of these guys have you got? Are you guys the cause of this entire problem?
I would
Onn is going infiltrating in the way that Onn does.
like he does, infiltrating in the most obtuse way possible. So,
I am
How
sneaking
obvious
away,
would
but
that
no
be
one's
to me?
I mean, you got, excuse me, you have baller ass perception. So I would say that your passive perception would probably notice. Like, we could roll dice in this instance, but honestly,
Well, I mean, my perception and my insight. This would be more of an insight versus perception.
uh,
Because perception, it would be
Dude,
easy for me
it's
to pass
Onn.
that.
it's no. So just let me finish and say, like,
Okay.
yeah, I am not going to make you roll dice. I'm just
Right.
going to say that the chances are that Alton would notice because he's just good at fucking noticing a lot of stuff. Breedis, I would roll a check for her, but she's currently got her attention totally focused on Eridu. And so I'll say as Onn slips away, he's able to sneak away from Breedis, but Alton definitely notices him.
Right. That's what I'm saying, though. Would it be because that's the difference between perception and insight? Is would I be able to figure what he's doing, or would it just be I see him slinking off, but I continue to go into the chamber instead?
You would see him slinking off. I can't see any way for you to just intuit what he's doing.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking the question.
Yeah.
Trying to remove away from player knowledge.
Sure.
So
Okay.
then, in that case, I kind of give him like a puzzling look, and then Dominique and I just go sleep. And as we often do, she's my pillow, and I am take my long rest.
Super chill.
Yeah.
That's and super cute.
Brutus has her on Eridu. I missed the whys for that.
Wait, what?
You said Brutus has her attention on Eridu, and
Oh.
I kind of missed the why that's happening.
Well, the why that's happening is not entirely evident quite yet, but
So is she just like staring me down?
I mean, just more like she's exuding this sense of like concern for you, and she's got this whole like very nurturing energy that's focused on you. She's just seems like worried about you being healthy enough. Like really, she keeps saying like, we have a comfortable place for you. Like we have some hay. Do you want to sleep on some hay?
I would say in this moment, a lot of what's happening is going through Eridu's mind in a way of like, as though he was listening to people talk while his head is underwater. And so it doesn't even, the words don't come through. And he just kind of sets his back against a wall and slinks down into a sitting position and just rests his head against the wall with his eyes closed.
Very well. Okay, so I guess we're cool to do Onn's little slinking off moment.
I will clarify that this is probably happening as people clear out and leaving just the two of them in the chamber together.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And Breedis is happy to stay with you, and since you're not really responding necessarily, she's just doing whatever she can that feels intuitive.
Has she
to
asked me
make you
anything
feel-
directly?
I mean, she probably is saying stuff like, are you sure you're feeling all right? And
Oh, well,
general
if
things
she
like that.
if she addresses me directly, I'll
Yeah.
respond.
Oh, okay.
I just when the general conversation's happening, Eridu's sort of checked out of it.
For sure. Yeah. Well, in that case, so we will go to Onn. So Onn, you sneak off in. So essentially, the main chamber that you guys were in just now, it has just a handful of druids milling about, kind of working on their own things. There is a small fire being built, and then someone has like got a rat's corpse on a stick, and they're roasting a rat, and yeah, it's not looking so good. So then there's a chamber off to the north, which was where they said that the smell was less bad, and that's where you could go relax. And then there's a chamber off to the east, and then that is really where the smell is intensifying. So that is where you sneak off to. You sneak off to the east, and you find in here there's a collection of tubs. They actually look like big wooden tubs that have metal binding. They look like they were the kind that someone in a tavern on the surface would use to make wine or to make cider, where they're crushing grapes or crushing apples and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely just been hauled down here. It seems like it's been here for a while, all of these, because they're kind of rotting and just covered in scum. And you see a handful of druids in raggedy clothes in front of these tubs. And they have ladles and also big sticks. So they're stirring what is inside the tubs with the sticks, and then there's also like a small fire with like a metal pot that's on it next to the tub, and they'll occasionally take a scoop of the ladle out of the tub and put it into the metal pot that's on the fire, and it's just bubbling and yeah, they're all just methodically doing this process. You also see next to them there are these satchels, and occasionally one of them will pick up the satchel, kind of like rummage around in it, and you hear this clinking sound very softly coming from the satchels.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to get closer to the tubs. As I'm doing so, I'm going to be looking around the rest of the room. Does it look like there's like much in the way of like containers set against walls or anything? Or does it basically seem like that there's the tubs, this little fire pot, and druids, and that's it? Does this seem like...
Yeah, there's not much in the way of like shelving or storage areas in here. It's very just kind of like bare and open, and whatever is in there is whatever they've hauled in there and is like sitting on the floor around the druids.
Right. Is it obvious that there are corpses in these tubs, or is it just all mulch by this point?
You don't see any corpses, and if you get close enough to look at the tub, then you don't see anything gruesome like a severed hand floating. You don't see anything like that. It's definitely just all the liquids.
Okay. In that case, I'll get close to a tub and inspect it, as though I was monitoring the quality of it.
It's a fine brew. Fine brew.
But yeah, I'll then speak to one of the druids that's there, and mention that I'm curious. Why have so many?
Are we actually having a frozen stream? Because as I look on Twitch, it's all flowing.
Yeah, no, it looks solid to me. I think that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're good. Keep
It's
going.
working for me.
Okay. All right. As you were saying, Onn.
Yes. Why so many? Are we expanding the enterprise, mass producing now?
There's a very dirty, human looking up at you. His face is just totally like gaunt and emaciated. You know, like you can see his bones sticking out through his face in an uncomfortable way. And he has a deep, gravelly voice that comes from very, very low in his chest. And he looks up at you and says, "Enterprise? I don't know if I would call it that."
How long until your stew pot is ready?
"Well, just about getting to the perfect point over here." And he points over at the small metal pot that's on the fire. And if you look closer into there, you can see it's bubbling. But then also around the edges of the liquid, where it's closer to the edge of the pot, there are bright little flashes of light, as if the light is being refracted off of like little tiny crystalline structures.
Okay. Interesting. Right, in that case, I would like to go to one of the druids and observe them as they're stirring in the tub. And then I would like to see if I've got something to take a little sample of something uncooked. What do I have? Equipment, here we go. Long gone is my cast iron pot. However, I do have a water skin. So I will try to surreptitiously pull my water skin out and just kind of scoop a bit from the tub. Again, trying to not arouse suspicion.
Is it are you in front of the same druid that you're just talking to?
Yes.
Yeah. He'll stop you right away and say, "Oh there, oh there, oh. If you wanted some, all you need to do is ask." And from that, he reaches into the satchel and he pulls out a little tinkling bottle, and it's a vial. It's about this big. It's got a nice little cork stopper in there, but there are several chips around the rim of the vial. And yeah, it's definitely just a little dirty. Just kind of got some dirt on the outside. It's not like a very clean, pristine vial. But the liquid inside is this deep, like almost like purple kind of blue color. And as he moves it and sloshes it around, you can see the viscosity. It just almost looks like molasses or maple syrup. You know how thick that is. But you
First taste is free.
He says, "We have plenty. And if you are in the sewers with us now, then you may as well have some."
Thank you. It wasn't clear whether or not I was allowed to take some before or after my stay here this evening.
No, drinking that would have killed you.
Oh, the raw stuff kills, does it?
Yes. Yes. And this does something different.
Yes. Now, forgive me for my ignorance, but I'm not sure if you're aware. I occasionally make journeys into the Feywild myself. Would taking this drug negatively affect my ability to do so, or my experiences therein?
At that, he gets a very pensive look on his face, and he puts down his implements that he was using to prepare the material. And he sits back on his haunches, and he looks very misty-eyed off into the distance. He takes a moment before he answers. I am not sure. It has been so long since we have truly been able to go into the Feywild. I don't know if I can answer that for you.
Very good. At this point, Onn is probably becoming too useful, and so he's going to.
You're going to be the druid's best friend.
So he's now going to ask outright. So you take this to access the Feywild, not travel there, but just get a peek.
In a manner of speaking.
Yes. It's very fortunate, isn't it, that all these surface dwellers started taking this drug, seemingly apropos of nothing.
Yes. I can't say why exactly it started, and I can't even say who it was that made the connection that we could harvest the monsters that were created by this event. But this is something we've been doing for months now, and we've been building up a very, very impressive stock.
Right. I will leave you to your work. It seems to be stellar. You're doing fantastic work. Thank you very much for the sample. I shall go and enjoy myself. Keep up the good work.
Before you drink,
cover my nose.
yes. You will retch and vomit otherwise. Just so you know.
Right. Thank you very much for the tip. Your name, good sir? Thank you. I shall remember that.
It's
Oh, whatever name he gives me, I'll be sure to remember it.
Baldorn.
Baldorn?
Baldorn.
Baldorn. Okay.
Usually I have a little list of random names, but I forgot about that today. So that's what you get. Baldorn.
Yeah, that is absolutely fine. I am usually terrible at names. Emaciated human druid.
Who's very, surprisingly friendly. Doesn't look like he would be the friendly type, but he was very, very open and honest with you.
That he was. I was expecting at some point for this to start, backfiring and him getting very suspicious. But no, it was a very friendly chap. I enjoyed my conversation with him. Yeah, I shall emerge. I'm not sure if I'm going to be confronted by a curious Alton or what at this point, but I shall emerge from the eastern chamber and move towards the northern one.
Very well. You pass by the frame of Eridu, crumpled up against the wall.
Well, hold on.
I'm sorry. We were going to go back to you at some point.
We should go back to me at some point.
Okay, we are back to you. Don't even worry about
That
it.
scene might be changing.
All right.
So at this time, God damn it, is it
Breedis?
Breedis? I want to keep saying Braden, but that's a different game. I keep getting yours and Eric's games mixed up.
Stop. They're totally different games.
I know, and Braden and Breedis are not anything alike. I mean, Braden's a freaking dragonborn man who's like a king. Anywho, all right, so not Braden. Breedis has shown direct concern for Eridu at this point, and he'll open his eyes and stare directly into hers. They're normally like pretty bright, but now they're almost vibrant in the dim light of the sewer. And he'll look at her and say, what? When is the last time you have connected with the Feywild?
Too long. Far too long. I think about it every day.
As do I. And I have for so long. And I have tried so hard to reconnect. It has led me down many paths. Some of regret and some of joy. But I have been there. Really been there. Within the last few hours.
At that, her eyes just go wide like dinner plates, and she stammers, how can that be possible? How?
With a little help from my friends.
Hey, you're not Kurtu.
That's true, I'm not. But Asa has a tendency of throwing song lyrics in it.
Fair enough.
Its beauty is beyond description. And so much has happened since then and before then that I feel I have chased this thing for so long, and now I have grasped it and have felt all of its beauty and feel more lost than ever before.
It was only... I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, you're good.
It was only a fleeting glimpse. What if it could be so much more?
What if it could be so much more? He is like edging a little closer, just rampantly staring deep into her eyes, studying her, as if he's studying something beyond them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it feels that I still am connected with this place and can see things beyond what you and I have felt in a long time. And they are beautiful. Not unlike yourself.
Eridu. She breathes deeply, as if to collect herself for a moment. I feel that we can trust you now. You especially. Your companions, yes?
Yes,
but
they are trustworthy.
You especially. I feel like I can trust you. We need your help.
Breaking eye contact and sort of like diminishing the moment a bit. Right, well, this is beneficial because I believe that I also need your help. So can we make an agreement, make a bargain between the two of us?
That sounds agreeable.
Very well. What do you need my help with? And I will share my needs with you as well.
I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy, but our circle, we have a way, we think we have a way to bring the Feywild into this world. If only just a small part, if only it's one beautiful tree, if it's anything, we think we have a way to finally show the surface dwellers that we're still here and that they've taken so much from us, but they can't take this from us. We're going to take this back from them.
Would Eridu know likely with a history check. If there has ever been an attempt to do something like this before,
Roll that history check.
I would love to. 22.
Wow. Okay. You know that there have been attempts to do so. There have been several very grandiose stories about elven wizards that have reached insane level of power, that they started to hatch some crazy schemes and tried remake the reality of the world. And there have been a couple of times where that was attempted, and those elven wizards were either killed by enemies that were trying to stop that from happening, or there was some other catastrophe that made it not successful. So as far as you know, that has never happened, but there are stories about people attempting.
And it seems that in these stories, things always go
badly. Yeah, very badly.
History does not speak well of this thing that you try to do.
History has never spoken well of oppressed peoples, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try with all of our might to take back what is ours.
And you would sacrifice yourself?
I would sacrifice everything, Eridu.
You propose an extremely scary thing. Something that could break the understandings of this reality.
Wouldn't it be worth it, though? You said it yourself, that the Feywild is so unbelievably beautiful. Such a unique, perfect thing. It's got to be better than this reality. This material plane has nothing but disgusting corruption and power. She looks so exasperated at the moment. It's got to be better than this.
Eridu will place his hand on her cheek and turn her head to meet his gaze again and say, Breedis, this world also contains a beauty of its own. Something that, to bring the Feywild to, could damage, could make both an ugly perversion of what each once was. You could be risking lives, you could be risking some sort of tears in realities, but you could also be risking what makes this world and the Feywild so beautiful in their own rights. It makes me sad that you cannot see the beauty around us. It is there.
Is it? Is it, Eridu? And at this, she pulls away from your hand on her cheek. Is it that beautiful, Eridu? Is it that beautiful to have to scrimp and to scavenge for everything? Is it beautiful to not know where your next meal is coming from? Is it beautiful for your next meal to be a rat when you take the form of a rat? Not unlike cannibalism. Is that beautiful, Eridu?
I did not say it would not be hard, but it is these moments of misery that allow us to see what is worthwhile. Perhaps you need a reminder of what it is like there. Something to open your eyes to why the Feywild should be a place we look at, we experience, but we don't live in constantly. There are some people who just can't. And that is why many of them don't go looking. To force that on them, to make them have to see our passions, I just don't know.
We trust you, Eridu, but the fact remains that you can't empathize with us. It seems that you've lost your connection to the Feywild as well, but obviously you've been there more recently than any of us have. You can speak from this perspective that none of us can understand, none of us can see. And because of that, you won't truly understand why we must do this.
I think you have this wrong. I think because I have so recently connected to the Feywild, because my perspective holds me so much closer, I actually see things clearer than you in this moment. Perhaps what you should be looking to do isn't to bring the Feywild here, but to bring you back to it. But in order to do that, you have to be able to empathize, and not just with yourselves, and not just with the people around you, but you must be able to feel and empathize with this world. It is a dull, matted perspective of life compared to the Feywild for sure, but it still wants to be loved. And to deny it that, and to not deny that connection, you're denying yourself a chance to see what really could be. Perhaps you're looking about this the wrong way. Could we possibly take the information, the research you have been doing, and find a way of taking your druids into the Feywild? Even just one of you, even if just for a moment, so that you can feel again what that is like, and understand it, and bring that beauty in yourself back here. Because that's what I was given, is a chance to bring a little piece of the Feywild to our world in me, and in the way that I view life.
I am skeptical. We have done several trials in the past few months, and a lot of the research has been inconclusive. But I will consider what you've said.
And I will be happy to be whatever you need me to be in these experiments from here on out.
Very well. You were saying there was something I could help you with? She looks at you a little disdainfully now. Just a little bit.
Yes. I feel it would be a extreme insult to this entire conversation and to all of the compassion you have shown me for me to hold anything back from you. So I must admit that I have myself searched and experimented with the Sapphire Dream. My journey has taken me deeper than even I thought I would. And I feel now that I am at a place where either I continue and let it tear me apart, or I break this connection completely, which may also tear me apart. I do not know how to come away from this addiction, because I do not fully understand it. But you seem to. You seem to understand this drug much better than anyone else that, at least that has shown me honesty. And perhaps you can help me wean myself off of this, get it out of my system.
I believe it is possible. Our kind, you're right about how we have more of a connection with this drug than most do, but it is usually at the end of the process. After an individual has had so much that their body cannot process it anymore, cannot take it anymore, and it transforms them into a creature without thought, without morals, without any inhibitions whatsoever. That is what we deal with. We kill them, we harvest their blood, we refine it, and we use it for our own ends. I'm not entirely sure if we can help you. As I said, we usually kill the monsters, not heal them. Not to say that you're a monster, yet. She's trying to backtrack. It is possible that we may help you. But before you get any kind of help, I do think that you need to rest.
Yes. Perhaps the next time you would kill one of these monsters, you could consider finding a way of doing whatever you can to help them first. There is a lot of empathy lost in you.
You can't afford empathy when you live where I live, Eridu.
You can't truly grasp the Feywild without it. And I'm not attempting to cast judgment. Don't think that. I understand how this world works, and I understand what it takes from us. We are like lights in a dark place when we come here from the Feywild for the first time. And every moment we spend here, it is as though that light flickers dimmer a little bit every single time. I understand. But it is also important that you remind yourself why you're here and what keeps your light burning.
I see. We can talk more later, Eridu. Good night.
Yes. Thank you for your hospitality.
Always. So at that, Bredis walks away looking a little confused. You know, I think that's a proper word for it. How about you guys all meet up? Maybe Eridu can meet up with Onn and have a short little conversation. I'll be back.
Yeah, Onn could enter the room right now.
Yeah, he could.
In which case, Eridu would actually, ask him to help him stand up.
Okay. Talk for just a minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello, Onn. How are you?
Ready for a rest.
Yes. I am as well. It seems my legs do not want to hold my body. Would you help me stand?
Yes, absolutely. Put me out, Rand. Help support your weight. And as I walk you towards the northern chamber, which is where we're told would get us away from a bit of the smell.
Yeah.
Eridu, I've been thinking. We seem to have pieces of a puzzle. And I wonder if we'll ever get to finish the puzzle before the pieces draw weapons and stab us in our sleep.
This is an elegant way of putting it. Yes. I myself feel the impending threat. Especially given how entwined Garth is with all of this.
Is he truly entwined? Darius didn't seem to me to necessarily be, telling the truth, perhaps just using us for his own ends.
No, he is deeply entrenched in much of what is happening here. He told me himself.
You spoke with Garth?
He made it a point to come and visit me while I was in my cell, yes.
What did he have to say?
A great many foolhardy things. most of which fall under the ideals that he is much better at this game than we are, which he is. But one of the things coming into light that is possibly concerning is there is an ambassador coming from Celestria, and I think it's the name of the city, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we've kind of landed on. I
The
guess.
Celestial Capital City, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. We've got two actual names for it, and one can be an unofficial name, and the other one the official name for
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Elysium is what what, like, kind of like how you'll say New York, but like they'll, like, people of the island will actually say Manhattan.
Okay, cool, I like that. Yeah. He is coming here, and Garth has hired me to move him through the city to a particular place where Garth's loyal men are stationed. This is something I'm not directly opposed to as long as it involves preserving this man's life. The problem is I don't know anything about him or about Garth or about this these intentions. But I've done some foolish things on him, and I have made some powerful enemies. If I continue down this road, I don't think I will survive the month. I've got to hold up to one of the promises that I've made to one of these people of influence, and that way I can ensure myself a little bit of safety.
I hired someone recently, a dwarf fellow by the name of Zelor.
That's his name.
Yes. Zelor and I have been spending our daylight hours trying to get to the bottom of the mystery of Twin Harbors. Primarily the drug issue. It seems to me, however, that the drug issue is one element of a web that we don't know the full extent of. But this web seems to have entangled you in particular, Eridu, and it's something that we should seek to free you of.
Yes.
One might consider attacking the spider directly, but one might get caught in its maw. Perhaps instead, being the flies that we are, we should work together to pull on a few of the strands and stop the spiders getting to us, perhaps forcing the spider to take an alternate route and itself landing into trouble. I know.
I see what you mean.
I know
Do you
for
have... Oh, go right ahead.
that we have these people, these individuals, that are being harvested, for a better word, by Bredis and the other druids around here. Lower my voice so as not to arouse their suspicions. If Bredis needs these, I'm not entirely certain that she's outside of culpability here. She has something to gain. We have no idea how Garth and Darius feel about them, but we know that Orin feels strongly about them. So Bredis and Orin seem to have opposing views. It might be something to work to our advantage. By the same token, we know that Darius has a dislike of Garth, but we don't know Garth's true feelings towards Orin, Darius, Bredis, or these unfortunates that are quite taken with Sapphire Dream. All of the players, we don't fully understand how Garth factors in. Garth appears to be your main danger. For us to succeed in wresting you from his clutches, we must find out who hates Garth and who does Garth hate.
So find someone that would take his attention more than me, and throw this person into Garth's way in a way that he could not ignore?
I don't have any strong affection for any of the people that we've just spoken of. They are individuals that, for one reason or another, have utilized our services or our bodies so that we might complete certain tasks for them.
Yes.
Beyond that, we have no relationship.
I would not be opposed to finding a way of making Darius some form of stumbling stone for Garth. Perhaps another fly in his web that he may spend his time consuming so that we can sneak away.
Speaking of sneaking, one of our party seems to be much better at it than the two of us, and might be a linchpin in enacting some sort of plan. Where is Alton?
I do not know. He has a way of sneaking off.
Well, I hope he
Not
doesn't
over
get
here,
into
not
trouble.
over there.
Do we see a sleeping Alton in the northern chamber?
Yeah, if you bother to look.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. If you guys bothered to look in the last hour,
I didn't
totally
know.
passed out immediately.
I didn't assume where we're at. I just figured this whole conversation is while we're walking. And if
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in classic fashion, as soon as Onn says, "Where is Alton?" he literally trips over Domney. And Domney wakes up. Alton, like, his head hits the floor, and he wakes up, and then Domney's like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." So there's Alton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rubbing the back of my head, just like surly, because unlike fucking elves, the rest of us have to sleep.
For real though.
It's,
Are we settling down for a long rest, getting some sleep?
Yeah, that's the idea, and I also wanted to give your characters an opportunity to just catch up on all the crazy exposition and stuff that's happened.
Yeah. Something that I would like to do after my 4 hours of meditation is to get up, look around the sleeping bodies in the chamber, and then go and stand at the foot of, because I've done it with Eridu lots of times, go and stand at the foot of Alton's sleeping area, stare at him, and just whisper, "Are you awake? Are we friends?" And just stare at him for a good solid hour, and then retreat back to my own place.
perhaps at a certain point, Eridu would say, because elves not fully sleeping, on, go back to wherever. Leave him be.
Alright. Merely conducting an experiment, Eridu.
You and I can be friends. I just need to meditate. You see, I can't even speak.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Till tomorrow, Eridu.
Till tomorrow.
Good night, John boy. Alright.
Okay.
Okay, so your characters take a rest for as long as you need to rest, and when you get up, Breedis comes into the chamber, and she has a dented, tin platter, I guess I would say. It's just like the aesthetic is everything they have is broken a little bit and salvaged. So she's balancing several chipped bowls of just this brown, like, stew-looking type thing. And she says, Good morning, everyone. I know it's not much, but when we have guests, we like to try and treat them well." And she places the platter in front of you, gives a longing look at Eridu, and then slinks away.
Before she slinks away, Eridu would say, "Your hospitality has been exemplary. Thank you."
How many platters are in front of us?
It's one platter with 3 smallish bowls of stew.
Okay.
Do we know what kind of stew?
She didn't say what kind.
Okay. While eating, I'll make small talk with Alton and Eridu.
No, I wanted to do before because I wanted to be like, we need another bull, and I point to Domni.
Ah, yes. Very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She is a member of our party. No different than the other. I'm Alton is saying that, not Josh.
Uh-huh.
I'll take a slurp of my soup and then muse out loud. Don't you find it interesting that they can transform into forms such as rats, and yet they eat rats? It's interesting.
Yes, it seems to be a point of contention for them.
I would imagine so. Would it be akin to cannibalism, or would that depend on the form that they're currently in?
Well, I do believe that it is not unheard of for rats to eat other rats, especially when they are diseased or dying. However, Brutus did seem to equate it to cannibalism in a conversation that we had.
Brutus is either another character or
slightly more masculine version of Brutus.
Or a Roman philosopher, whichever one you want.
Yes.
We just need Bredus to stab us in the back.
Yeah.
Two Bredus.
And two, Brutus.
I've actually finally gotten to typing her name in a place where I can see it, and then remind myself of the pronunciation.
There you go. So speaking of her, she comes back with one more bowl and sets it in front of Domni, and maybe looks. Yeah, she looks like she's gonna give Domni a pat on the head, and then thinks better of it and slinks away again.
Okay.
For druids, she sure is not utilizing her animal skills.
Yeah, I mean, she's used to being with other animals that are also people. So an animal that is actually an animal is,
Well, that and she doesn't trust Alton, and so she doesn't trust how Alton would have Domini react either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually pretty legit.
I'm actually really concerned about what she thinks about the fact that Alton would control Domini's actions at all.
That's a good point.
It's a partnership, not really a controlling.
Yeah, but she doesn't know that because she doesn't trust Alton.
Yeah,
true. That's true. I'll grant you that one. Yeah. Anyway,
enough wandering out of character.
Yeah, enough wandering. Yeah, wandering out of character. So I am once she leaves.
Eridu will look at you and say, I wonder what these druids think of you commanding your wolf in such a way.
I don't care what they think. They think whatever they want. I find that people think what they want to think.
This is true.
And that has very little impact on reality.
Some would argue that it is the thoughts that we think that shape our reality. What do you think of that?
I think that that there is a difference between truth and fact.
Which is subjective, truth or fact?
Truth is subjective, fact is objective. You can be truthful and say something incorrect, and you can lie and it coincidentally be factual.
Interesting.
Yes.
You're very wise, Alton.
I wonder, this soup, it appears to be a brown, but if I was someone whose eyes were affected by an inability to see certain colors, would I not see it as green? And then in my fact, it would be green, not brown.
Yeah, that is how colorblindness works.
It is. Now, does that make me wrong for perceiving the color differently than you? Factually.
You are incorrect in the color, but you cannot perceive it any other way.
What makes me incorrect? The fact that the majority of others perceive it differently?
Man, I wish science were advanced enough yet for me to be able to explain
How
all of
color
the
works?
rest of that.
Yeah.
Reality is often guided by the vast majority, not the majority. 51% can't dictate to all what reality is. 97% is an indicator of reality. If I see the world as having a green sky, and the rest of the world says it's 97% of the world is blue, one has to conjecture that the sky is in fact blue.
So, are we suggesting, or perhaps I'm reading too much into the conversation, that the druids are not perceiving those under the influence of Sapphire Dream to be individuals anymore, and so see fit to harvest them for their resources? Because as far as the druids are concerned, they're no longer people.
Onn, I think you have reached to the heart of the matter. And more to the point, I believe that the druids have also stopped perceiving others who are not themselves, not of their druid caste, as being lesser. Their lives having less value because they do not hold the same perspective.
I believe a common thread amongst most in the world of the big folk. Those that are other are seen as less than.
Yes, and sometimes we talk ourselves into seeing what we know to be perfectly equal as less than. And I believe that's what has happened here. I have challenged this perspective with Gretus. I have asked her to view her victims as the people that they were, and it appears that she cares little for who they were before they were turned into monsters. Except for me, she seemed to show a vast amount of affection toward me. But also to the point that if her agenda were to be reached, whatever damage it could cause to the world, she seems to care little for that, as long as it brings the ends of her sect to fruition.
What is her goal?
She would like to bring the Feywild to this plane of existence, in a very real, very physical sense.
She wishes to tear a fabric between planes.
The fact is, no one has done it because of many, many reasons, and none of them have ended well. The Feywild is not a physical place. How do you take something that is not physical and put it into this world? And yet, here I stand, here Onn stands, here any of the Fey stand on this physical realm as a being.
If you not stand on solid ground, is it not a real world?
It's difficult to arrange words so that it's understood. Perhaps it would be best to think of Eridu, myself, and those related to the Fey realm as the mortal realm's expression of beings that were simply amorphous ideas.
Yes. I mean, again, the words are not adequate, but it is as good of an explanation as any can give.
An
Consider it.
interesting thought. I shall consider it.
But to
So-
do what she is trying to do would be devastating to the people that are here.
In theory, but this is all I've come to is I cannot recall a circumstance in which it has ever become anything but theory. Powerful Fey wizards have attempted such things, And if they haven't been stopped by others, then their experiments have undone them in the most horrific ways.
Now, there is, as we know, there is three elements or three states of being, if you will, in the physical worlds. In our prime plane here, there is air, there is water, and there are solids. Some of my people conjecture that there are other states beyond that. They can't qualify or quantify that yet, but they theorize that there is a transition between two. And they believe that the transitionary period, if left in a stable state, would be exceptionally dangerous and volatile. I fear that if the Feywild and the Prime Plane stay are in a stable point together, it will be combustible, if you will. Two things that exist at the same time that should not exist at the same time can only unravel.
Perhaps we need to, given the lack of information that we have in the broader scheme of things, orient ourselves to a plan of a decision of what we are doing, if not a plan of action.
Yes.
We understand that Ambassador Taladris is arriving soon. Perhaps even today.
Yes.
Garth has enlisted you, Eridu, to do something to do with Ambassador Taladris, to move him to somewhere where Garth's men are.
Yeah, just a quick little detail recap is that, so you got the eastern side of Twin Harbor that he's going to be coming from, because that's the side where Celestia is in the distance, far off in the distance. His entourage is going to be coming from that trail, from that road, and there's a trail guard station. And at that trail guard station, the path splits, so that there is that northern path to the northern gate of the city, and there's the southern path to the southern gate of the city. And I believe I said
he was going to go to the north. He wants him to go south.
Yeah, they're going to go to the north. He wants him to go south. Yeah.
Okay. So we know that Garth wants something to do with Ambassador Taladris. This isn't going to be good. So it behooves us to protect Taladris. For
yes.
it will put a wrench in Garth's plans.
I had a thought on this. Now, and perhaps if we can... We have people who have helped us in the past. We have... what was Akram's wife's name? Emily, and we had made the connections with those who had helped us against the Drow and the dwarves when they had inserted themselves too far into Twin Harbors. Perhaps, if we can get our own undercover cadre of people who mask themselves as guards amongst Garth's people, then once we get Ambassador Taladriel to the South Gate, we will have a stronger hold there than Garth imagines, and we can act against whatever his plans may be, if we believe them to be plans that are nefarious. And by that I mean, it is in my interest to protect this ambassador. And if Garth's plans are to bring him harm, we can then move to intercept those and possibly stop them. And if we are smart, we can do it in a way that does not point blame on us, but perhaps points blame on Darius.
What if... I was, yesterday, discussing with Darius, who feels that there is no stopping Garth. And I said to him that while I don't know much about these foreign lands, I am aware of the Celestial Kingdom to be the central focus of the Free States. And if something were to happen to an ambassador, it would reason that it would cause significant conflict and perhaps even for them to step in. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to let something bad happen to the ambassador, but all that has to happen is for his trap to be sprung. If we can prevent his trap from succeeding, that doesn't change its intent. If you attempt to commit murder, it is no different than if you murdered.
The trick there is that in both cases, we have got to put the dagger into Garth's hands. Garth knows this game well enough to have removed himself from far enough away from the actual crime that there would be no easy way of implementing him in it, implicating him in it, is the words. These words are not my natural tongue, I'm sorry.
Yes. Unfortunately, unfortunately, you're right. I don't have a solid enough grasp of all of these machinations. They are foreign to me.
I think Onn and I had discussed getting Garth's attention onto someone else, and I have thrown Darius as an option because he is another who is not incredibly happy with me at the moment. And I think that if I can pit these two against one another, their focus on me will drive back just a little. And I don't know how to... If we can afford the time it would take for the capital city to respond and act in Twin Harbors, especially considering that we are neutral to them, and they have no authority here, it's very likely that Garth has built up this militia that exists now as a way of countering any great power from coming in and asserting their own rule in the Twin Harbors.
Are you suggesting, Eridu, that Garth may be essential to maintaining peace in the region?
I believe that Garth has made himself essential to remaining neutral between two great powers that have always been a little bit harsh toward one another.
So we have to somehow occupy Garth without removing him.
I believe so.
That you are safe, but so is Teladris.
And if we, at least for the time being, because if we remove him, we have to ensure that the person who takes up his place is someone who will wield this power with strong responsibility. And none of us are those types of people because we just do not have the influence. But we are small enough that we can be a thorn in someone's side.
We are to navigate this issue with immediacy.
Yes.
While Orin's goals and ambitions are unclear and potentially damaging in the long run, and Breedis also has her own designs with druids that are harmful to everyone.
I believe I have strong hold on well, I believe that I have started the groundwork with Breedis, and with your help I believe that we can help these druids find what they want. But not in the way that they currently seek it.
is not this Emily character a... I've heard in passing of her
You have seen her.
exploits on... I've seen her. I've heard in passing exploits of the day of her fiance's death. I've heard...
met her briefly in the Cornerstone also.
Yes, I've heard that she is a capable fighter, and she is quite connected.
She created a very successful, what would you call them? Rebel group?
Yeah.
When the Guard was first implemented, yes. And she held... These people held their own quite well against drow and dwarves who overstepped their bounds in the city.
Would she then not be the perfect candidate to bring order back to the harbors?
It depends on her public influence.
I do believe that this is a good conversation to have. However, we're not in a position to supplant Garth now. We are in a position to figure out what this ambassador is doing and to try to keep him safe. We are also in a position where our influence can sway these elves, these druids, hopefully, to try to return themselves to the Feywild rather than bringing the Feywild to us. And I believe those catastrophes averted, we then just have Onn?
He's the politician.
Yes.
Yes.
But perhaps, like many politicians, he will... Perhaps like many cult leaders, it will burn fast and burn hot, and then, in its own time, fizzle out. And the damage done will not be as bad as it might seem.
Wise words. Which means we do need to consider who is not a flash in the pan, but a steady fire. A steady pot, if you will. Who will boil, not burn. Yeah. And I think the first step we need is the best long-term result is to align ourselves currently with this ambassador. A kingdom moves slowly, but continues to roll. And if I recall, Emily is connected to that kingdom. So she would be put in a position of power. It would be easy to put her in a position of power with their support.
Yes.
So
I think I see where you're going, and I can understand, and I agree.
Yes.
It'll put us
save the ambassador. He's our number one priority.
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is a good spot for us to take a quick break. Like, you guys are still planning, still scheming, still trying to get some idea of how you're going to proceed. After the break,
we seem to be narrowing in on...
You're narrowing in. After the break, you guys will really narrow in on what you're going to do, and then we're going to try and get to it. Yeah.
I think we've gotten 2 steps down to is the ambassador and the druids.
Yeah.
I think are the routes we're going. We're kind of eschewing everybody else, and we're focusing on those 2 elements, stopping the druids from fucking the prime material plane, and saving the ambassador to create a more stable Twin Harbors.
Very well.
Yep.
And yeah, just to remind everyone, this will be the last session of this episode, and boy, is it going to heat up as soon as the players figure out what do they want to do. There's so many options.
When we come back from our break, we will act. I promise.
I think that we've got it. I think we're solid. We're moving forward with this.
You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be great. You're gonna be great.
Someone will die.
I heard dice. I'm now nervous.
Oh dear.
I've been rolling dice this entire time. Just
Oh yeah.
give my hand something
Oh
to
yeah.
do.
And
All right,
at,
great.
All right.
at that, we'll be right back.